Welcome to Men-torshowcaseMagazine, newly formed by Love in Motion Productions. Men-torshowcaseMagazine will feature local and national untold stories of those giving back to others. We invite you to view our other pages and see an array of services we are offering to the community. Come and join us. We're excited to have you be a part of our new beginning as we seek to build lives and help others to succeed in leaving a living legacy.
Hello, and welcome to Men-torshowcase Magazine, where we feature ordinary people doing extraordinary things. I'm your co-host, Jerry Gibson, and tonight we have author, Miss
TOYA HAYWOOD Greenwich.
Miss Greenwich.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
I read some of your book, Died at Birth.
Yes.
Okay? And it took me, it touched some stuff in me. But tell me a little bit about yourself before we even delve into your book. Tell me a little bit about you.
Well, I'm married. I have 3 children. My son, he's 20 years old. He's in New York currently. I'm just finishing school. I have 2 beautiful daughters, 13 and 9.
Mm-hmm.
I moved here in Atlanta 8 years ago.
Okay.
Wanted change. Wanted something different. I lived in New York, then moved to North Carolina for a little while, and then I moved here to Atlanta, Georgia, and I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
North Carolina, that's my home state. I love it too. Your book and the title, Died at Birth.
Yes.
Tell me what caused you to name your book that?
Well, I actually died at birth.
Okay.
That's what started off, and through the different trials in life, I went through a dying and me getting saved. That was my resurrection of life, being born again. When I was in my mother's womb, my heart stopped and I was flatlined for a good 20 minutes. They had to rush my mother to have a certain emergency C-section, and thank God I'm here.
Okay.
But through trials and tribulations in life, I went through death situations, abuse, and different sorts of things like that. And, that's what came to me when I started to write my book and the title.
Which leads me to my next question. What actually motivated the book itself?
Knowing that I'm not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
In life, when you're going through that situation, you think that you're the only one going through it.
May I interject? When you say going through, what exactly are we talking about so that the listening audience will know?
Being let's go back forward a little bit. Dealing with the rejection in home, not having the love that you need from parents. I'm not going to say my parents did not love me,
right,
but they didn't give me what I needed. They gave me what I wanted. And having a parent that dealt with drug addictions and so forth like that, mm-hmm, caused me to stray away and do my own thing because I was looking for love in the wrong places and got into a bad situation. Relationships, and from relationships got into things that, as I'm not going to say the enemy or other people did, I got into things of my own thinking I was grown, and got myself in a lot of trouble. And only God, saved me, got me out of a lot of situations.
Wow. Isn't that something? He's always there.
Amen.
What was your turning point?
To be honest with you, my son, I had my son when I was 19 years old, and he's been through it all with me. But when I had my daughter, it touched a place in me that I didn't want her to see what I've been through. And not saying that I didn't want to change for my son, but it was, God knows what to do and how to do certain things. And if it took her to change, for me to change, I started to change slowly but surely because I wanted something different. I knew this is not where I was supposed to be, and I know God had more for me. So when I had her, I started to mentally change in my mind.
Wow. Did you have any outlets as far as community activities that you could go to that actually helped as far as help you matriculate or get through the process? Or
Yes. When my father had moved to North Carolina, coming from New York, I would have never thought I would have moved to North Carolina. No. But my father did. He wanted to retire in North Carolina because his wife was from Trenton, North Carolina.
Okay.
So I came and I visited, and I kind of liked it. And I was like, you know what? I want something different. Let me just move. And that's when I moved to North Carolina with my son when he was about 2 years old. And being there probably about 3 years, and I met a lady who was my pastor at the time, and I joined their ministry, and I started to grow there, and I started to do different things in church and started to learn more about God and what he wanted for me. So that's what started to trigger and change things in my life.
You know, oftentimes I hear people say, you know, God did this or God did that. And oftentimes the person that has been abused, they don't want to hear anything about God.
Right.
Because they feel like God, mother, father have you know, forsaken them or whatever the case might be. Were there ever a time that you felt that you had just been forsaken by your mom, your dad, and God himself?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're going through that situation, you always feel that you have no one. But God told me I would never leave you nor forsake you.
Wow.
And I had to remember that. And I had to, sometimes you have to just find that inner strength. And that's where I had to pull from. And I knew God was still there no matter what pitfall I went through. Even when I was in ministry, when I first joined the church, I still fell. But I still knew I had God that was standing next to me no matter what. When growing up, I had my sister that was in ministry, and she would always pray, and she used to take me to church with her. So there's certain things that I didn't forget.
Oh, gotcha.
So yeah, you may stray another way, but you won't forget.
There's some things that are placed in you, those seeds.
That's right.
Yeah, I can identify with that too. I mean, I think all of us either know somebody, either in the family or somebody out, a friend or something you know, that's going through something similar. If we haven't gone through it ourselves,
that's right.
And it's a real touchy subject because a lot of people don't like to discuss it.
Yes.
You know, it's one of those skeletons that we prefer to stay in the closet.
That's right.
But in my experience, as far as watching, because I have a family member, and more than just one that I found out later on that were abused, and some of it wasn't sexual, some of it was physical,
right?
Some of it or mental, you know. And so when you've seen it time and time again, you kind of sort of know what to look for,
right? And
the sad part about it is, you know. I'll just be candid. You know, I have a sister that was abused, and you know, you know, as we grew up, I mean, it was happening in our home, and I didn't know anything about it because you know, she's only 3 years older than me, and an adult knows how to hide that kind of stuff.
That's right.
But once we grew up, I asked her, I'm like, you know, what was going on? Why was, you know? And so she kind of filled in the blanks, and I was like, whoa. And you just don't know the magnitude of suffering that a person goes through.
That's right.
You know, but you know, God is good.
That's right.
And He's able. You know,
that's right.
And so the thing about it is, I think too, there should be more outreach programs that help individuals that go through things such as that, men and women, because
right.
you know, you have men that have been abused as well.
That's right.
And we really don't talk. You know, because I mean,
right.
you know,
you're right.
Sometimes the abuser is another man.
That's right.
You know, or sometimes, you know, and so we hide behind that machoism, but it causes us to make mistakes along the way.
Right.
You know, and so, wow. Like I said, your book, Died at Birth. In reading some of your book, I hadn't finished it, but I plan to. It seemed like this was a form of therapy for you.
It was.
How so?
It was part of my healing, and not saying that I'm perfect, not saying that I'm through all the situations that I've been through. No, it's a step. That was my first step. That was my first healing process.
Okay.
You know, as you get cut is a process, as you get hit, as the wound is being healed. So that was my first process. That was my first step into delivering myself. Sometimes people think going to church and getting their hands laid on is the way that they can get free, but that's the way I got free, by me in my closet just talking to God, and I'm writing.
Wow.
So.
And so some of this is God led, if not
Oh,
all
yes.
of it. Yeah. What you have a chapter in here, and it's called The Unwanted Relative. Expound on that, if you would.
The unwanted relative, that's the chapter of my life when growing up and a family member was on drugs.
Okay.
And I talked about this unwanted relative because it was part of my life. It came and intervened and moved in. It took over. Like you have some people come and they say, can I come stay with you for a little while so I can get on my feet? And you wind up like, hey, 3 months then came by. Why are you still here?
Man, ain't paying no bills.
Right. And then you start to try to change things in the household and try to start taking over. So that was a relative that wasn't wanted.
Wow.
And took over my relative mind. And when it took over the mind, then it destroyed the family.
Wow. What's your relationship with your family today?
I love my family. I love my mom. I don't hold her, I don't hold that over her head. I don't hold nothing that my father did over his head. Me and my parents talk all the time. I just was on the phone with my mother.
Wow.
I talk to my father every other day because I had to love my parents through it.
Isn't that something?
Sometimes you got to love family members through the situation because you will be the only Bible they see after the time.
Isn't that something?
So,
wow, that's powerful. Oftentimes the victim blames the family member. Right. And a lot of times they're estranged from the family member, and it's like they'll act out or do things that, that's just uncustomary. As a result of that. And in their own way, they're screaming out for help. Right. But they don't know how to say it with their mouth, so they act out. That's powerful, the fact that you can actually have a relationship with them and it be as strong as you say it is. Right. Wow.
I had to also remember that scripture, love your father and your mother.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
So, I mean, there's other family members, not just my parents that hurt me, but if I waste too much energy on that, how am I going to move forward? And I just encourage anybody. Yes, I probably haven't been through a situation that's so drastic as the next person or whatever the case may be, but that was my story. And I could have been one of those children that was like, I'm not dealing with you no more. Yeah. But I decided to turn that thing around. Wow. And through my life, it strengthens my parents to continue and to love and do whatever they have to do.
That's a wonderful thing. Like you say, you might be the only church that they get or the only Bible that they see. Toya, what do you expect or want your readers to take from the book?
I want them to take or receive that they're not the only one that going through something or been through something, whether it's a situation in my book or something totally different. I look at it as everybody went through something or maybe going through something. Right. As long as you don't stay there. Okay. As long as you don't get in that pity party. Because if you stay there, you're not going to go nowhere. You have to have a strong mind and you have to move forward and push past the pain of what has come your way. Just know that as long as you got God on your side.
Do you know, I guess, the book will help your platform, but do you know how many people that really need to hear what you have to say? Because, we walk around every day in these vessels that God provided for us, and nobody knows what anybody has been through. So to know somebody has gone through it, survived, and saying, you know what, I'm on the other side now. You can traverse those waters as well. You don't have to stay where you are, because oftentimes I've seen victims where they will get in, or something will happen to them, and they'll stay there. Right. They'll grow up. They'll be adults. But mentally, they're still back there to where that abuse, happened. And so for you to be able to come through, you got a serious message, and people need to hear it.
Thank you.
What organizations are you a part of that you give back to?
Right now, I'm with Free Chapel Ministry.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, me and my children, when we first moved here, we picked up, didn't know nothing about Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
picked up, I cooked, fed the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I made plates and just whoever I seen laying in the street.
Uh-huh.
So I tried my best every time I can get, and I will go out and just do things that the unfortunate can't do.
Yeah.
And that's feeding the hungry, that's clothing, whatever I can do. I make sure I, invite my children with them so they can see.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Because you telling them is one thing, but them actually seeing
yes.
is totally different. I remember an incident happened with my nephew. He was in high school, and it was Easter,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a hotel we didn't feed the homeless thing going on. And I told him, I said, I need you to dress up. I'm taking you to a job fair. He dressed up. I mean, he was sharp as the board of hell. And when he got there, he was like, "Oh man, Uncle, there's a lot of people down here."
Right.
And so when we got to the door, I said, "You're here to help feed the homeless." I said, "I just want you to check this out." And he never forgot that experience.
That's
he said
right.
that he saw grown men that were not able to look him in the eyes. And oftentimes, they've gone through some stuff. Well, and everybody has a different story.
Right.
And I think God blesses us to be able to bless one another.
That's right.
So I applaud you for having the strength to come forward and even tell your story.
Thank you.
Because oftentimes, like I say, we hide behind, what has happened, thinking that people don't see, but it materializes in your everyday life.
That's right.
And your children don't benefit as a result of it. Your
That's
family.
so true.
I met a young lady once, and she had told me she had been kidnapped as a young lady and abused for 3 days.
Wow.
Beat and abused sexually. And I asked her, has she ever got any counseling on it? And she said no, but she survived. But her relationship with men was just, at some point she would just freeze up. And so it cost her, I think, her marriage and that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
But you have been, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You being here, because this is the kind of conversation that we need to open up more about. Christians seem to avoid it sometimes.
Yes.
And so and we suffer sometimes more so than anyone.
That's right. That's the truth.
Because so to have this platform to be able to talk about it has been a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
If somebody wanted to get your book, how would they go about doing it? Are you on Facebook or anything?
Yes, I'm on Facebook. They can follow me on Facebook at TOYA HAYWOOD /Greenwich. That's follow me on Facebook. On Instagram is _TOYA TOYAHGN. That's Instagram. And they also can purchase my book on Amazon, and also have a website, www.dynastypublishing.com.
That is something. I'm going to purchase your book because there's some things in here that I'd like to know, and I want to continue to read it. You never know the souls that you can touch with a bit of information. Like I say, this has been one of those interviews that's really heart-wrenching and mind. It makes you think, especially when you've seen the suffering up close and personal.
Yes.
So it's like, what, I can identify with it. And like I said, the strength to come forward.
Amen. Yeah.
And that speaks volume to me, and so I applaud you.
Thank you.
And I hope all goes well with you. Let me ask you something. In 5 years, where would you like to be? Where do you see yourself? I think is what I'm trying to say.
5 years
from
from
the camera and tell me. Oh. Tell us where you want to be in 5 years.
5 years, when I'll be finishing my third book.
Okay.
Business owner, well off. I am in the process of starting a homeless ministry, but I didn't want to just call it a homeless ministry. I want to call it a homeless home, because there's going to be different programs that I'm going to have for young people that's coming to the shelter and so forth. Because I've been there, I've been homeless, so I know how it feels not to have a home. So that's where I want to be in 5 years. And well off, wealthy, well off, in with my family.
Ms. Toya, it has truly been a pleasure. And I hope that you come back and you have your program in place and we can actually go on site and actually do some footage there. For those of you who want to see this interview in its entirety, please go to Men-torshowcaseMagazine.com and please follow us on Facebook and like us. Thank you so much for your time. Ms. Toya, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.